Right now, somewhere in the world, there is a party happening that you will never be invited to. Not because you're not interesting enough. Not because you don't know the right people. Because you don't have $1 billion. And that is the only ticket that matters. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what happens behind those closed doors. The rituals, the ceremonies, the parties so big and so wild they are hard to believe. The gatherings so secret that even getting close to one has gotten journalists arrested. We're talking real events, real names, real money, and a level of spending that will make you question whether we are all living in the same world. We are not. Chapter 1. The summer camp that runs the world. Every July, something very unusual happens in Sun Valley, Idaho. A small, quiet mountain town with fewer than 2,000 people living in it. The sky fills with private jets, dozens of them, parked side by side on the runway. The passengers are taken straight from the airport to a private resort. And the moment those gates close, the outside world completely disappears. The total wealth of the people inside has reportedly crossed $1 trillion. $1 trillion in one room. This is called the Allen & Company Sun Valley Conference. But people also call it, without joking, Summer Camp for Billionaires. It started in 1983. No press is allowed inside. The secrecy is taken very, very seriously. There is no public list of what gets discussed. What is agreed inside those walls? You feel the results months later, in a news headline you didn't fully understand at the time. Jeff Bezos reportedly talked through his plan to buy the Washington Post here. Disney and ABC executives quietly worked out the details of their big merger here too. But here is what nobody tells you. Alongside the meetings, there are evening drinks, private dinners, hiking trips, boat rides, and golf. There is no public agenda, but the guest list in 2024 included Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Tim Cook, Sam Altman, Sundar Pichai, and Peter Thiel. The people who control your phone, your search results, your social media feed, and how much you pay for all of it. All of them, in one mountain resort. Off the record, was it just golf and dinner? Or was something else being decided? Nobody who was inside will tell you. Chapter 2. The forest where presidents go to disappear. Now imagine something older. Something much stranger. Every summer, deep inside a massive redwood forest in Monte Rio, California, hundreds of the most powerful men in America quietly disappear into a private campground for more than 2 weeks. No women allowed. No press. No explanation given to anyone. This is called Bohemian Grove, and it has been happening every single year since 1878. People who have attended include U.S. presidents: George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, Ronald Reagan, Gerald Ford, Richard Nixon, Dwight Eisenhower, and Herbert Hoover. Henry Ford went there, Nelson Rockefeller, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. And on the very first night of every gathering, before the drinking starts, before the private conversations begin, before these powerful men spread out into their private camps with names like Lost Angels, Mandalay, and Caveman, they perform a ceremony in front of a 40-foot-tall concrete owl statue beside a small lake. Men wearing robes carry a coffin and perform a ceremony called the cremation of care. It is a ceremony that looks like a cult ritual, performed by the men who hold the nuclear codes. The voice of the owl? For many years it was a recording of Walter Cronkite, the most trusted news anchor in American history. Think about that. Fire burns at the base of the statue. Fireworks light up the ancient trees. And in that moment, the most powerful men in America symbolically burn away their guilt, their worries, and their sense of right and wrong. Before spending 2 weeks together, unseen, unrecorded, and answerable to no one. Back in 1942, the very first conversations about the Manhattan Project, America's secret plan to build the atomic bomb, were reportedly held here. In the year 2000, a journalist named Alex Jones secretly entered the grounds with a hidden camera. His footage was later confirmed as real by the Bohemian Grove's own spokesperson. Another journalist, John Ronson, also got inside with a small documentary crew. He described what he saw as an all-round feeling of immaturity, heavy drinking, strange rituals. These men had reached the very top of their careers, but emotionally, they seemed stuck in their college years. If we leave the drinking, rituals aside, the complete secrecy around what happens after the ceremony, that part nobody got to film yet. Chapter 3. The night reality went strange. The Rothschild Ball. But this level of secrecy didn't start in Silicon Valley. To understand the modern billionaire, you have to look at the dynasty that set the blueprint. Old money, European dynasty, and a party so strange and so carefully planned that the great filmmaker Stanley Kubrick reportedly studied it before making his final movie. December 12th, 1972, just outside Paris, the Château de Ferrières, a huge 19th century mansion with 80 bedrooms, miles of private forest, and a library holding 80,000 books. Baroness Marie-Helene de Rothschild, wife of the head of the famous Rothschild banking family, sent out invitations to 150 guests. The invitations were printed backwards. To read them, every guest had to hold the card up to a mirror. The dress code said, black tie, long dresses, and surrealist heads. When guests arrived, the outside of the chateau was lit with moving orange light, designed to make the whole building look like it was on fire. Inside, the main staircase was lined with servants dressed as cats posed as if sleeping, who slowly woke up and moved as guests walked past. Beyond that was a maze made of black ribbons that looked like spider webs, with occasional cat figures appearing to guide confused guests forward. Then came the dining room. The plates were covered in fur. Dead fish were placed alongside the silverware. The bread rolls were green. Dessert was a sugar statue of a woman lying on rose petals. The famous artist Salvador Dali helped design many of the costumes. Marie-Helene herself wore a giant deer's head covered in real diamonds shaped like teardrops. Audrey Hepburn wore a bird cage around her head. The French Minister of Culture arrived wearing a decorative knife through his skull. Was this art? Was it bored rich people with too much money and too much imagination? Or was it something that operated on a completely different level? A private world that outsiders were never supposed to understand? One detail worth noting, Stanley Kubrick later used a real Rothschild property in England, Mentmore Towers, as the filming location for the famous masked ball scene in his movie Eyes Wide Shut. You can decide what that means. Chapter 4. The Man Who Bent Reality for One Night. Now we move to 2013, Silicon Valley. A man who helped create Napster, helped build Facebook in its earliest days, and had $2.7 billion in his bank account, decided to get married. Most people book a venue. Sean Parker rewrote reality. He didn't rent a space. He didn't choose a five-star hotel. He found a stretch of ancient, protected California redwood forest, land that the government had declared untouchable, and he transformed it anyway. His team built fake castle ruins from nothing. They carved stone pathways through the trees. They created man-made waterfalls, artificial ponds, and a wooden dance floor that looked like it had existed for centuries. A private cottage, a custom-designed gate standing 20 feet tall, with the couple's initials forged in iron. And then he dressed every single person in it. All 364 guests were fitted with full custom costumes, designed by Ngila Dixon, the Academy Award-winning designer who clothed the entire cast of The Lord of the Rings. This was not optional. This was not a suggestion on the invitation. You wore the costume, or you did not walk through that gate. Imagine arriving at a forest. It is dark. The trees are hundreds of years old, and then you step through the gate, and suddenly you are not in California anymore. You are somewhere that should not exist. A kingdom, built in secret, built in days, built for one night only. Live rabbits roamed freely for guests to hold. A sofa the size of a small room served as the couple's throne. The wedding cake stood taller than a grown man. Total cost? Between $4.5 million and $10 million. And when California's authorities discovered that Parker had built all of this inside an environmentally protected zone without permits, he paid another $2.5 million to close the case. His public response was a long essay.
The wedding was not actually excessive. There were no ice sculptures, no caviar, no famous singers performing.
No ice sculptures. He built a kingdom in a protected ancient forest overnight, and his defense was, no ice sculptures. Seriously. Chapter 5. Davos. The two worlds running side by side. Every January in Davos, Switzerland, the cameras arrive. The journalists set up. The world watches as presidents and company bosses walk into conference rooms to discuss climate change, poverty, and the future of humanity. That is the public stage. Every word is measured. Every handshake is photographed. Every speech is streamed live to millions of people around the world. But the moment those cameras are put away, a completely different world switches on. Same town, same week, completely different reality. Private parties paid for by billionaires run parallel to every official event. Behind closed doors in rented chalets and private club rooms, the same people who gave serious speeches that morning are now at events the public will never see or hear about. In past years, Russian billionaires funded some of the most expensive side events, gatherings where guests were hand-fed caviar by models in costumes, and where the names on the guest list would cause immediate scandal if they ever became public. At one fringe gathering, people dressed as monks walked quietly through the streets, handing rolled-up scrolls to carefully selected strangers. When opened, the scroll read, "You have been chosen." A code led to a website referencing seances and private rituals. This was happening 50 meters from a stage where someone was giving a speech about ending world poverty. And then there was Microsoft. Sting performed for the elite. 24 hours later, 10,000 employees received an email saying their jobs no longer existed. The public stage says one thing, the private stage does another. Two worlds, same people, running side by side every single January, while the cameras only ever show you one of them. Sun Valley, Idaho. $1 trillion of wealth, zero press, total secrecy, every single July. Bohemian Grove, US presidents in robes, burning a coffin in front of a giant owl statue, performing a cult-like ritual, every year since 1878. The Rothschild Ball, backwards invitations, diamond tiers, fur plates, a chateau made to look like it was on fire. Sean Parker built a kingdom in a protected ancient forest overnight, dressed 364 guests in Lord of the Rings costumes, paid $12 million total, and said it wasn't excessive. Davos, Sting performed for the elite. 24 hours later, 10,000 people lost their jobs. Two worlds, one town, every January. Outro, session chain. Here is the thing nobody says out loud. These are not the events they are embarrassed about. These are the ones we actually know about. The ones where someone talked, someone leaked a photo, someone filed a legal complaint. The ones where nobody talked, those don't have names, those with no proofs, those without records anywhere. What about those untraced ones? This is just one layer. If you want to see how billionaires dress and how their private world really works, watch the videos on my channel.